Hello everyone and welcome to Momentum channel. Today we are going to review the top 3 cruise companies in the world and decide which one of them is a better stock to buy right now. We'll compare the 3 major cruise companies including Carnival Corporation, Norwegian Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Cruises based on a number of financial metrics including their revenue, profitability, current valuation metrics, balance sheet, and their future valuation estimates and growth potential. At the end, I'll share my pick in terms of which one is a better stock to buy. Looking at the stock price and market capitalization of these companies, you would notice that Carnival Cruises has the largest market cap of 15.75 billion, followed by Royal Caribbean Cruises and Norwegian Cruise Lines. Over the past several months, cruise companies had been hit so hard, but most recently, and in fact within the span of the last few weeks, they are picking up and these stocks are getting hot again. In fact, if you look at the last trading session, Carnival Cruise stock has gone up by over 15%. Royal Caribbean Cruises went up by 8+%, and Norwegian Cruise went up by close to 20%. If you compare the last trading price for these companies to their highest 52-week price, you would notice that for Carnival Cruise, it has a growth potential of 116% if it were to hit its all-time high price again. As for Royal Caribbean Cruise, this shows 80% growth potential, and for Norwegian Cruise Line, it shows a 122% growth potential. Moving on and looking at the revenue for these companies based on the actual numbers and analyst estimates, you'd notice that the estimated revenue for these companies in 2020 and 2021 are going to be lower than what you saw back in 2019. To give you an idea how the revenues of these companies have been hit, we've compared their estimate in 2021 to that of 2019. For instance, for Carnival Cruise, you see that their 2021 revenue estimate is only 73% of what they had back in 2019. Looking at the earnings per share, both in terms of actual and estimates, you'd notice that Carnival Cruise has a better earning per share estimate in 2021, though the estimated earning per share for all these 3 companies is going to be negative even in 2021. But as we move on and get into financial year 2022, that's where the earning per share start to become positive. Looking at the sales for these 3 companies and their year-over-year growth, Norwegian Cruise gets the 3-star here for me. Look at the impressive 116% plus growth in terms of sales in 2021 compared to 2020, and similarly 33 plus % growth in 2022. Now keep in mind, these numbers are based on analyst estimates and may actually shift. Looking at the valuation of these companies, and in particular price to book value trading 12 months, Carnival Cruise is showing only 0.61. Any number under 1 suggests that the company is priced lower than its intrinsic book value. Not only that, if you look at the enterprise value to EBITDA, which is a popular valuation multiple used in the finance industry to measure the value of a company, we notice that Carnival Cruise has a more favorable number here, which is why Carnival Cruises gets 3-star here on the valuation metric. As for profitability, we are looking at a different number of metrics here, including gross profit margin, net income margin, and return on assets. And when we compare these 3 companies, Royal Caribbean Cruises come to top for me because of their very nice net income margin and return on assets. One of the concerns of many investors is the ability of cruise companies to navigate through these difficult times. As we know, during this pandemic, the revenue of these companies have been hit so hard, which is why it's important for the companies to be able to have enough liquidity and service their liabilities. Looking at their current assets for the companies and comparing it to current liabilities, sadly, all these cruise companies, they have a higher current liability versus their current assets. The one that is a bigger red flag for me is Carnival Corporation, given that they have almost 3 times more in current liabilities than their current assets. That said, when we compare their total assets to their total liabilities, all these companies are in the green, as their total assets will surpass their total liabilities. Well, this balance sheet may be a little bit alarming, knowing that these cruise companies are already looking into some financing options, and with the improvement to the economy and potentially more consumer discretionary spending, they could possibly sail through these difficult times. Lastly, I'd like to take a look at the dividend payments for these companies. Many of our viewers on Momentum channel are dividend stock investors, so I believe this information would be very much of interest to you. Here for Carnival Cruise, they pay a dividend yield of 9.30%, a forward dividend yield of 9.30%. Their payout ratio is currently sitting at 73.44%. It's a little bit higher than what I like to see. Typically, I like to see a payout ratio under 60%, but we know how the stock price for Carnival Cruises has been drastically impacted, which is why it's pushing their payout ratio higher, assuming that they're maintaining the same level of dividends paid. As for Royal Caribbean Cruises, they pay a forward dividend yield of 4.49% at this time, and they have a very high payout ratio of 353.59%. This is definitely not a good sign, because just shows that they are, for the most part, actually using all their net income to have to pay for their dividends. This could be a big red flag, and there is a chance that Royal Caribbean Cruise might actually cut its dividend. That's it. They've actually been growing their dividend over the past 7 years straight, and their 5-year growth rate in terms of cumulative growth in their dividend has been 21.89% compared to 14.87% for Carnival Cruises. Keep in mind that Norwegian Cruise Line does not currently pay any dividend. There you have it, folks. An in-depth review of the stocks for the 3 major cruise companies. The contents of this video has been put together based on my research. That said, I'm not a financial advisor, and you should always do your own due diligence before you buy any securities or stock. Personally, I own shares of Carnival Cruise and Royal Caribbean Cruise and have had very good returns on them. I do not own any shares of Norwegian Cruise Lines. If I were to pick any of these stocks to invest in, I would probably lean towards Carnival Cruise and Royal Caribbean Cruises again. Both of them pay a very decent dividend at this time, and they have very good potential over the span of the next 2 to 3 years. Are you invested in any of these cruise companies? If yes, what has been your stock return? If not, would you consider buying into any of these stocks? Let me know in the comment section down below. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button and join Momentum channel. Here on Momentum, we post weekly videos about stock market analysis and investing. Hope to see you next time.